More Americans view China as an enemy as the CCP prepares for war. Plus, an odd affection for Trump in China. That and more on this week's China News Headlines. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. After decades of the Chinese Communist Party's unrestricted warfare against the U.S., a lot of Americans have come to view China as the enemy. That's according to this new poll by the Pew Research Center. Roughly 9 in 10 U.S. adults consider China a competitor or enemy rather than a partner. However, while 53% of conservatives describe China specifically as an enemy, only 20% of liberals say the same. Concerns about China's aggressive behavior are not new. U.S. military and intelligence officials repeatedly warned about Chinese military investment, disinformation, and espionage and cyber operations. You know, I think someone else has been warning Americans about the Chinese Communist Party too. Yeah, someone. This week, Admiral Philip Davidson, commander of U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, testified before members of the Senate Armed Services Committee. He said China plans to overtake the U.S. on the world stage. Well, all the world's a stage. Someone's got to be the villain. And China is putting big money behind that. According to Chinese state-run media, China is ramping up military funding. This was a big topic at the recent meeting of top communist officials, called the Two Sessions. Premier Li Keqiang said, "We should comprehensively strengthen the military exercise and fully prepare for war." Do they have a particular target in mind? Well, just so happens they do. Admiral Philip Davidson also said he expects China to invade Taiwan by 2027. Now, China says the U.S. admiral is only hyping up the threat of a Taiwan invasion. After all, the Chinese Communist Party has been promising to invade Taiwan for decades. Let's just hope this is one of those promises they break. The Chinese officials are also telling President Biden to stop the dangerous practice of supporting Taiwan. It is dangerous. Dangerous for the CCP. They don't want to fight the U.S. military. Speaking of U.S. action against China, Biden's commerce chief, Gina Raimondo, has said Trump's steel and aluminum tariffs were effective. President Biden has never been clear about what he intends to do with the Trump-era tariffs on China. But this might be a sign tariffs will continue. That being said, a lot of Trump's policies have been frozen as the Biden administration reviews them. For instance, the Wechat ban. In February, Biden temporarily paused the ban so his administration could review it. But it has now come out that Commerce Secretary Raimondo and her husband own a stake in Wechat's parent company. That parent company is Tencent, one of several Chinese tech companies the U.S. considers a national security threat and potential vector for espionage. How could she do that? Well, the same way most Americans are invested in potentially dangerous Chinese companies, through emerging market funds. She and her husband jointly own shares of 2 emerging markets exchange-traded funds, which are composed of several foreign stocks, including Tencent Holdings. Of course, as Commerce Secretary, I hope Raimondo learns about all the ways Americans end up supporting an authoritarian regime that kills their own citizens for their organs. And after the break, China's National People's Congress has approved new rules to make sure Hong Kong's democracy is firmly within their control. Welcome back. This week, China's National People's Congress approved sweeping changes to Hong Kong's electoral system. What are the changes? One change is about how Hong Kong's chief executive gets selected. The chief executive is like a governor. In the past, there's been a 1,200-member committee that elects the chief executive. It's made up of 4 equally sized sectors. The 4th sector includes elected members of Hong Kong's Legislative Council and District Councils, plus some unelected members from mainland China. But that's not enough for the CCP. Under the new rules passed this week, the election committee will be expanded by adding a new group of 300 Chinese communist officials. So with the election committee increased from 1,200 members to 1,500 members, I think it's safe to say Hong Kong is now 25% more democratic. And in case that doesn't pack the Hong Kong government with enough pro-Beijing officials, they're also expanding Hong Kong's Legislative Council. In the past, it had 70 seats, 35 of which are elected by the people. Now, the Chinese government will be adding 20 more seats and filling them with its own people. So elected representatives will now always be in the minority. And in case that doesn't pack the Hong Kong government with enough pro-Beijing officials, a new vetting committee will be established to block any of those potential candidates not deemed sufficiently patriotic. This is what Chinese officials call democracy with Hong Kong characteristics. Yeah, that's not a joke. And according to this report, members of the NPC applauded for the longest period after the Hong Kong electoral proposal was passed. I feel like there's some kind of quote about liberty dying and thunderous applause that might be relevant here. On the plus side, State Department spokesman Ned Price says the U.S. condemns China's actions in Hong Kong, and the U.S. is also working to galvanize action over the CCP's abuses of ethnic minorities in Xinjiang. Price said, "I don't think anyone is satisfied yet with the international response to what has taken place in Xinjiang. And that's precisely why we are, in many ways, galvanizing the world, galvanizing collective action to make clear that these sort of abuses against human rights in Xinjiang and elsewhere will not be tolerated." Wait, what actions has the Biden administration taken? Who's being galvanized? They're still reviewing whether to call what's happening in Xinjiang a genocide. Hopefully they'll get to that in the U.S.'s upcoming high-level meeting with China. And I'll get to that after the break. Welcome back. Next Thursday, top Biden officials will meet with their Chinese counterparts for the first time. And they're meeting in Alaska for some reason. According to a senior administration official, they will discuss everything from COVID-19 to climate change, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and China's trade war with Australia. The U.S. will also discuss Chinese practices seen as damaging to American workers and farmers, as well as intellectual property theft, forced technology transfer, and human rights. Okay, holding the meeting in Alaska makes more sense now, because both sides will be expecting a chilly reception. A bipartisan group of U.S. lawmakers have introduced a bill to fight forced organ harvesting. It's called the Stop Forced Organ Harvesting Act, otherwise known as the I Can't Believe We Have to Say This Act. According to the bill's sponsor, Representative Chris Smith, we must do more to put an end to the horrific abuse by international human trafficking gangs, terrorist organizations, and even some governments, China's communist regime in particular, who kill innocent people and sell their organs for profit, specifically calling out the Chinese Communist Party for organ harvesting. That's a huge move. And one of the victims of forced organ harvesting in China are the Uyghur Muslims. The CCP denies there's any genocide happening in Xinjiang and has welcomed investigations. Well, the first independent report has come out, and it says Beijing is intent to destroy the Uyghur people. In fact, according to the report, the Chinese government's alleged actions in Xinjiang have violated every single provision in the United Nations Genocide Convention. You hear that, Joe? And finally, this image has gone viral in China. The listing says it was made by a Chinese furniture company. The listing says you should buy the statue to make your company great again. And it features Trump, who knows Buddhism better than anyone. I'm so enlightened. I'm the most enlightened being. So much humility. What I get from this, though, is that inner peace comes from being banned on social media. And now it's time for me to answer a question from a member of the China Uncensored 50-Cent Army, fans who support the show on Patreon. Today's question comes from Jason. Does bear spray work on tiny pandas? Please, there must be something I can do to protect myself. Can pandas swim? I know. I'll move my entire house onto a boat that will show those tiny pandas who's the boss. Your fears are entirely justified, Jason. But I'm sorry to say, according to the WWF, which I believe is the World Wrestling Federation, they can also swim, and unlike most other bears, do not hibernate for months at a time during winter. Which means they will never rest until they've killed you and everyone you've ever cared about. A houseboat isn't going to cut it. Fortunately, pandas are very dumb. I mean, look at them. They can easily be fooled and tricked. I recommend booby-trapping your house with a large pile of bamboo. Then the pandas will get distracted and start eating. And since they spend like 14 hours a day eating bamboo, you can use that time to run away. Thanks for your question, Jason. And thank you for watching. I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.